Guys, I've got an incredible story to tell you. This one took place in Oregon, Washington County, Oregon. I was a paramedic up at Metro West Ambulance in Washington County, Oregon, around 1996 through 1998. Moved the family up there from San Diego and began working for them. I was working the night shift, 7P to 7A, with turned out to be one of my favorite, best partners I've ever had. His name was Don, and he was a big Nordic guy, stood about 6'3", glasses, tow blonde hair, straight from the north. He looked like a Viking. Massive legs on him. He was a triathlete, cross-country skier, cyclist, runner, swimmer, and he was my partner. He was more senior than I was, so he was the senior paramedic. I was the new guy from San Diego. I think I was about as old as he was, but anyways. So we're doing the night shift, and we get a call for a GSW, which is a gunshot wound, which is always exciting. I think a paramedic, any paramedic would be lying if they said it doesn't raise their curiosity when a GSW comes over the pager or over the radio. So anyways, I think we were responding into a mutual aid area. Usually you got to stand back before you get on scene because it's a dangerous situation, and police officers usually respond first, and then once they deem the scene to be clear, we headed on in. I'm gonna guess it was 9:30, maybe it was later. And we get there, there's police on scene, no firefighters are there yet. One of the police officers is cordoning off the scene with yellow crime scene tape, and it's upstairs in an apartment complex. So we get our gurney, we leave it downstairs, we get our equipment, and we head upstairs with it. There's actually a police officer down at the bottom of the stairs. There's a police officer at the top of the stairs. There's a police officer at the entry to the apartment. And the apartment, let me just kind of describe the scene. Again, it's at night, we're upstairs, two-story apartment complex. And doors open, I walk in and it's dimly lit. And the apartment looks empty. The living room has no furniture in it. There's boxes, look like moving boxes, shipping boxes, set randomly up against the wall. Don't know if they're moving in or moving out or what. The girl, there's a lady in the kitchen with the police officer, and she's crying. An officer points in the direction of the bedroom as we walk in, and the bedroom light is on, and there's got to be, I can see 2 officers at the doorway, and then more officers inside the bedroom. Oh my God, there's another fish right there. I just startled him. You know what? I'm going to stop right here. Before we walk in, I'm starting to hear a somebody's breathing rapidly. It definitely ain't one of the officers. I go into the doorway. I see this guy on his knees. He's got his, I don't know if he had his hands up on the bed or down at his side, but his upper torso is up on the bed. His knees are on the ground, and he's breathing in that manner I just described. I asked, what happened? The officer on the other side of the bed in the bedroom, over by the end table with the lamp, signifying that he may have put a gun to his mouth and pulled the trigger. So first thing I asked was, where's the weapon? And the officer that I was asking looks at me, and he turns to another officer, and that officer turns to another officer, and then that officer looks back at the other officer, and they're like, we don't know. And I said, could you find it, please? So at that point, before I even put my hands on this guy on his knees, I wanted to make sure that the weapon was found and that I wasn't going to encounter it underneath him or on the ground and step on the weapon, kick it, whatever, and discharge the thing, and then we'd have another shooting. So at that point, they all started looking for the weapon. And shortly thereafter, the initial officer that I asked over by the nightstand said, I've got it. I found it. He says, it's right here between my feet. I've got it secure. So Don takes the position at the patient's head, cradling the patient's head in his two hands. And I begin trying to figure out, okay, where would be the best place to work on this guy? It was kind of cramped quarters there in the bedroom, up against the bed, and 4 officers, et cetera, et cetera. So I remembered the whole living room's open, big open space out there, not lit up, but it's open. So I said, Don, what about the living room? Let's get him out to the living room. He said, good idea. Well, in the process of cradling this guy's head in his hands, he's going through his hair, and I remember to this day, he says, found the bubbling brew. And I had to kind of look at him, and he's got his finger in the exit wound on top of his head, right around, what is it, the occiput, parietal occiput area right there in the back. And at that point, I took a flashlight, and we looked inside of his mouth, and we saw what appeared to be the entry wound. It was deep in the where the upper part of the mouth connects to the throat for the lay people out there, and you could see a wound back there, and the exit was out the top of his head. So the guy's breathing. He's got a heartbeat. He's not conscious. He's not responding. And so the next step was to get this guy out in the living room. So Don got behind him, and I got his legs, and right about that time, right as we're picking the patient up, the firefighters arrive. The firefighter asks us, hey guys, what can we do for you? I said, we're taking him out to the living room. He said, got it. So they start assisting, and we got this guy out in the living room. We laid him down on his back. We were both signed off on paralytics, just to let you know what's available. So we obviously had an airway problem. As soon as we laid him down on his back, especially, for those of you that haven't encountered that before, gravity pulls it down to occlude their airway. So we had an opportunity to get out the mechanical suction, and it's a battery-operated canister with a plastic catheter. It's about a foot long or so. It's called a yanker or a yanker cath, and the canister holds. Help me out, guys. How much does it hold? 1,500, whatever. So we get that going. I'm at the head now, and Don is down starting to look for IV access, and somebody else has him on the monitor. We got 3-4 paramedics working. I don't know if there was more than one firefighter paramedic, but I know the one guy was. Just to kind of paint the scene as well, now I'm noticing that there's not only a bunch of officers all standing around us observing, but again, there was low light, so a lot of the officers had their flashlights out, and they were I guess the overhead light in the apartment didn't work or didn't have a bulb or whatever, but I remember them breaking out their flashlights, and they're all beaming their flashlights on us and the patient. And one officer looks, I kid you not, he looks like Colonel Sanders. I swear. He's got white hair, he's got a white beard, a goatee, he's got a white mustache, he's got glasses, or did he have glasses? I don't know. And he's got like 2 cameras hanging around his neck. And I just happened to look up at him, and I've like motioned to his cameras, and he said, I'm the crime scene photographer. And I went, oh, okay, cool. Would you be able to document this for educational purposes? He's like, absolutely. So we got that going in the background. So I'm starting to suction this guy's mouth, and I am running into a problem. I can't stay up with the amount of blood that is forming in his mouth. As a matter of fact, there is like toothpaste thick tubes of clotted blood starting to push out his nose. Both nostrils are starting to push out clotted blood. And I thought, holy crap, this is going south quick. And all of a sudden, the suction machine battery starts to die. My partner told a firefighter, down in the ambulance, in the back, or wherever it was. And so the firefighter takes off running. Meanwhile, I have no suction. And I'm trying to roll this guy on the side. I'm trying to use my fingers without getting my finger bit off. And I'm trying to prepare to intubate this guy. So, I mean, nasopharyngeal airways is just futile. It's just a mess. It was very stressful. Occasionally, the blood would occlude his airway, so he would stop breathing. And I was like, I didn't anticipate what was coming, but it was like a volcano. The pressure was building. He all of a sudden goes, I thank God I was wearing my glasses. I wasn't wearing any protective shield or safety glasses. I had actually prescription glasses that I was wearing. Wipe the patient's face and try to get this blood out of his nose and out of his mouth. It's like I'm waiting for the suction battery to come. Finally, the firefighter comes back upstairs with the battery, plugs that in, and gets the suction machine working, and so I get a firefighter taking care of that. I start setting up to intubate this guy. Meanwhile, I'm looking down at at my partner, at Don, and they're struggling to get IV access. And I said, Don, what do you think? Paralyze this guy so I can intubate him? He's like, absolutely, but we ain't getting anywhere if we don't get IV access. I thought to myself, you know, we got a paramedic working on one arm and another paramedic working on the other arm, and they're coming up empty. And so bells start going off in my head, and I'm thinking, opportunity to start an EJ, an IV in his external jugular. It's not a artery, for those of you that don't know. This is a vein. It's an external jugular vein. They got an IV established finally before I was able to gain access to his neck. So we had an IV. I remember the succinylcholine, that's the name of the paralytic, is down in the ambulance. And so again, this time Don, he's got the key. It's in the narc box. So he runs downstairs, Don does, and he comes back up with succinylcholine. We get that pushed. I think lidocaine was also in the mix. Atropine was also considered if the patient went bradycardic. So one of the other pieces of equipment that's required to intubate is a device called a laryngoscope. If I can describe this device, when it's unfolded, it's in the shape of an L. The handle is a battery pack. I think it takes C batteries, 2 C batteries. And then the bottom of the L is the blade, and it comes in different sizes for different sized people, anywhere from pediatrics to large adults. So I'm ready to intubate. He stops breathing. The guy's paralyzed. His muscles become flaccid, or they relax, not its natural tone. So we're not fighting against somebody that's trying to bite down or reach up and grab you when you're trying to get down deep into his throat and access his trachea. We finally clear this guy's airway well enough. I have the laryngoscope open, So you can kind of visualize that L is open. I think I'm down on my knees or on my stomach, and I insert the blade into his mouth. I get underneath his tongue and I lift up and I start lifting his head up off the floor of the off the carpet. And all of a sudden, my hand goes, oh! And I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? His head kind of clunks back down to the carpet, and I've got the battery pack in my hand up in the air, and the blade is still in his mouth. And I'm looking down going, what the? And I'm looking at, Don's looking at me, and he goes, Gary, the blade broke. And I went, no, I think it just came unattached. And I took the blade out of the patient's mouth. I take the handle and I'm looking at, the connection where they both go together. And my partner says again, Gary, the weld broke. And I realized, oh my gosh, I've got a broken laryngoscope. From one thing to the next, I had an incredible airway problem. I got blood coming out of his nose like toothpaste tubes. He spits in my face. He covers everybody. There's no IV access, or at least it was difficult. We finally get access. We paralyze him. Now he's not breathing. He was breathing. At least he was breathing on his own before. Now we've taken away that respiratory drive, and the laryngoscope snaps in two. And I thought, holy crap. Don has taken off running downstairs to get the spare, probably underneath the seat or wherever it was. And the clock is ticking fast, and Don's not getting back fast enough. I've got a mess on my hands. This guy's airway's pooling with blood again. I'm turning in on his side. I'm trying to stay up with suction. I'm putting an ambu bag on him, blowing blood everywhere. When all of a sudden, before I could think of it, I hear some crinkling of plastic, and I look over at the firefighter, and he's pulling out the cricothyrotomy kit. And I said, that's a good idea. So that process began really quick. Don has yet to return. And right as we're starting to prep to do this, Don comes running back upstairs, and he stands over us and he says, that'll work. I'm straddling the patient. Literally, his head and neck is between my legs. I'm standing over him. And I assumed that position so that I could get some leverage to penetrate the trachea, which was a little harder than I thought, and had to realize that if I didn't control this, I was going to go through and through his neck, or at least deeper than I wanted to. Removed the breakaway needle, got it inserted, inflated the balloon, secured it, and then attached the ambu bag, and voila, we got a secure patent airway, breathing for him. His heart rate's good, he's got a blood pressure. We've pretty much done what we can do. So time to cut butt for the hut and get out of there. So we packaged him, C-spined him, and then began the process carrying him downstairs to the gurney and got him en route to the hospital. En route to the hospital, he does become a little hypotensive and bradycardic. So we did end up administering atropine, which brought his heart rate back up, increased his blood pressure. We got him stabilized. Everything was good to go. When things can go wrong, they do. What a memory, huh? Crazy. Oh, just a follow-up on that crime scene photographer. I remember throughout that call that bright flashes of light were going off here and there, and that was him taking pictures. So I know it was 27 years ago, but if there's any remnant of that call, any photos still in archives or whatever, but yeah, I'll do my best, and if so, of course, I'm gonna post them and share with y'all. See you guys as you were.